Last week we talked a little bit about scheduling at the beginning, and I did volunteer that anybody send me their schedule, I'd review it.
Did anybody
Did
say?
anyone do it?
Well, no.
One person did.
Oh,
Was that you?
no, it wasn't me because my schedule was it was blocked out and then it completely changed. I did not follow it, and that's what I said my weakness was last week, was I did not follow my
Yeah.
schedule. It ended up
Did
being,
you do it?
I'm like, oh, I'm in escrow, and everything else went like, goodbye.
Well, and the one person that did send me their schedule, as I went through it, it was a schedule that was impossible to follow.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, one, it was blocks of time with no direction.
Adam.
So, prospecting, run errands.
So everything
Yeah.
we discussed, not to,
Not to do?
Yes.
Yeah,
So it was, and every time I see a schedule like that, I know it's a setup for failure.
yeah.
Because it's like, okay, there's no doable activity.
Mhm.
If you're gonna have a schedule that's gonna work, it's got to have enough detail that you can look at it and use it to help you move forward.
Mhm.
And when you put in what I call those general headers and categories, these are things I want to get done. It's like even, I think there was something that says, check on escrow. That's what specifically am I going to check,
Right.
And those are the types of things that you really have to start saying, okay, those are going to drive me crazy, and if I keep doing what I call those general headers, you'll quickly lose any desire to time block, because you'll get to that time block and our natural brain says, well, I don't know what to do. Let me look around my environment and find something interesting to do. And the most interesting thing that is available at that particular point in time is what gets done, not what's on your schedule. And then that night we say, oh, I meant to do this, I didn't, and we feel guilty.
Right.
So, we don't really like that feeling of guilt, so we end up saying, oh, well, that's not really working, I can't seem to follow my schedule. And it's because we didn't really put together a schedule. We put together a general to-do list. So one of the things that I found, especially for an agent, think about the things that you have. So let's say you get an offer accepted. The very next time you're doing your time blocking, you need to put all the dates of key events right into your schedule. Otherwise, you end up re-looking for them 27 times throughout. And especially as you get more than one or two transactions going, it's critical to have all of those dates right into your schedule so that you know. And that's when you need to say, okay, I just wrote this offer, so I'm working on my schedule for next week. Order appraisal with XYZ lender on Monday at 8:30. Call and take the time right then and there to get the phone number, to do every step, and then put all the critical dates and what you're going to do, what you need to check right then and there. And if you start filling your schedule up that way, what you'll find is specific activities, and now when you look at your schedule and it tells you exactly what to do, you don't have to waste time looking for a phone number, doing things. Your chances of
Hi,
actually
darling.
succeeding
Bentley, no.
at that schedule are 70,000 times better. So that's, and it's just the discipline of planning up front. And the funny thing is, people say, well, that seems like it takes a long time to actually put together a plan. Yes, it does take longer than most of us are used to planning our day, but the end result is you save a ton of time because you don't have to go back and forth. You know what needs to get done, and things will get done as you've scheduled them. So does that make sense?
Yes.
So
Do
who
it.
will sit in their calendar this week?
So like what I tried to do this week was, because I can't fit it all, what, who I'm calling, what I'm doing. So it's like I highlighted this block, and then I'm going to do the highlighted things on the list. And I like, it's call Joe and Bruce. Well, when I call Joe and Bruce, what am I gonna tell them and what am I gonna talk? So I'm doing it that way, because it doesn't all fit here,
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Well, and I do think that that is one of the limits of
A paper
a
calendar.
paper calendar is that, so when you have limited amount of space like that, what you want to do is also, call John and Mary about, and just enough information to cue your brain
Right.
what you're calling them about.
Mhm.
I've also found that that's really important to get their phone number right in there,
Right on there,
because
yeah.
it's the little things that end up stopping us. If I pull up my calendar and it says call John and Mary, even though their phone number is in my phone, now I've got to mentally reorient, and I'm opening up myself to a ton of distractions.
Big time. I was just gonna say the same thing. It seems like I go, okay, I'm gonna call Tad real quick, and I turn on, I'm like, Denise, what does she need? True. And
That
then
is true.
20 minutes before I can get back to, what was I? I was gonna call Tad, that's right.
That's right.
Well, and I do encourage people to turn off their on-screen notifications
Yes.
because they become such a huge distraction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, limit them to things that are truly important. To me, it's like if you have Facebook and Instagram and everything else on your phone that are coming in, those are just, it's like sort of like catnip to a cat. It's like, oh,
It is.
this is more fun than actually making that call.
Yeah.
Of course, always.
Right.
So to me, it's like, those are things you've got to try and eliminate. And that's why I tell people, your social media activities, you've got to put into your schedule.
And
But
after
then-
Robin's class, I did.
But then even when you're scheduling social media, don't put in there, spend 30 minutes on Facebook. Because you'll go to Facebook and you'll spend 30 minutes and
And
you'll
then,
accomplish nothing.
yeah, right.
So it's, what are you trying to do on Facebook? Go on Facebook, make a post about my most current client activities, turn on chat, and chat to at least 4 people with engagement. It's like, give yourself, here's what I'm going to do in this activity. If you just say, go to Facebook, well, Facebook's an entertainment medium.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to waste 30 minutes on Facebook.
Or 2 hours.
Oh, yeah, that coma, that Facebook coma.
Um,
Yeah.
So to me, those are the key things when you're putting your schedule together. Just think those through so that now activity leads to the next activity, and then while you're getting in the habit of letting your schedule run your life, turn on an alarm every 30 minutes during the day.
Okay.
Because that way, that alarm on your phone goes off every 30 minutes, and that's a signal to look at your schedule, to get back on track. And you'll find that is so incredibly valuable as you start the process of learning to let your schedule run your life. And that is truly the key to super successful and productive people. They have a schedule that they follow so that the key things get done. And then as you're planning, always be looking at what are the things you can get off of your schedule? What can I delegate out? What can I get other people to do? Do I really have to do this? You know, otherwise we can fill our schedule with what I call those C-level activities, that busy work
Yes.
that is not really productive. And then look at each day once you've sort of got it laid out and say, okay, is at least 30% of my time spent on A-level activities? Am I prospecting? Am I working on my marketing? Am I doing the things that are actually going to be keys to my success long term? Or am I getting faked out by the busy work of real estate?
I admit it.
We all do that. No, we all do it.
So even the one person that did send me their schedule last week also had some time, work on marketing. Again, those are it's like, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
I need to create a flyer, I need to do this. So it's always getting it down to the specific versus the general. Because if you just have a general topic, you'll waste 30 minutes on that. All right, so now back to leadership and self-deception. So everybody read chapters 2, 3, and 4?
Yes,
All right. Anybody read further?
I did.
All right.
Well, I got Audible, so I listened to it.
All right. So chapter 2 is talking about the problem of self-deception. And in there, Bud is talking to Tom, and he sort of accuses Tom of doing all these things, cutting off people on the road, not filling the gas for his wife and stuff like that. So I was just curious, how many of you could see yourself having done those things?
Definitely.
Okay, and so any insights, takeaways as you read through that?
I was thinking about how last week I was already going in this direction of, where is this going? And thinking of where it was going ahead of time, trying to figure out. And I've got this whole book to read, and I'm already on chapters 2, 3, and 4. It's different than what I thought it was going to be. So I was just noticing that about myself. That it's like, oh, wait a second. Oh, I know what this book is about. And then I went, oh, wait a minute. No, it's not. And you didn't say anything. You didn't go, wait a minute, Lisa, wait till you get into the book. You just were like, okay, good.
Well, it's sort of, to me, I love the fact that this story is told from the perspective of Tom.
Yeah.
And just even there, as he goes in and he's starting this meeting with Bud, and Bud says, you've got a problem, and he's trying to rack in his brain, well, what's my problem? What did I do? And, we can look at the activities. Now, to me, the one thing that I find as I work with realtors, and I've talked to them about this book, is that sometimes people say, well, Greg, I'm not managing people. I'm not, leading people that way. But I really want you to think about this book. And if you think about yourself in Tom's position, instead of thinking about employees that report to you, think about your relationship to your clients. And here's the real question. Have you ever thought poorly of your clients?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So, to me, that's sort of the indication is if you find yourself putting down your clients, talking about their problems, I have actually come to believe that it's almost always an indication that we are deceiving ourselves, that we are, our problem is that when we think a client is being unreasonable, do we ever think, oh, I wonder if I am?
I don't think at that moment we do.
And so one of the things I want you to start thinking about it is, as soon as you find yourself thinking poorly, blaming a client or another realtor, just check out. You know, gosh, am I justifying this behavior? And as we get further into the book, that'll be one of the indications of self-deception. When we start justifying our activity or our inactivity by blaming others. So it's just one of those things that when you start to see those activities, now, in chapter 3, Bud tells a story about when he was a young attorney. And to me, this is such a great story to really understand because, you know, he left his wife and new baby, went to San Francisco, got stuck on the floor way below everybody else. Have you ever felt like the world was being unfair to you?
No, I never look at it like that.
Well, that's good.
I go up and down the side of the mountain, well, there's an upside to this somewhere. I'm thinking I'm gonna meet my husband at the hospital. No, it didn't work.
So to me, those are the things that we need to be aware of. Any other insights from Bud's story about his San Francisco experience?
It resonated with me a lot because when I was listening to it, just the fact that he was like, well, no one told me about the food. No one told me to incorporate this into my documents, where he wasn't doing anything to ask what should be done, or he wasn't trying to communicate with everybody else, just because he felt he was on the 21st floor in his own little world, not trying to really engage with everybody else and trying, well, nobody told me any of this.
And I
Ask me questions.
I thought it was interesting in that you know, he felt like he was the most committed because he gave up the most. He was.
Right.
So, have you ever answered a phone call of a client in the middle of a family function at dinner and found yourself becoming more and more irritated with the client you're talking to? It's like, I'm giving you my time away from my family.
Right. Yes.
But that's our job.
No, it's not.
No, it's okay.
So,
Well, if we answer the phone, it is our job.
It is our job.
We have a choice, right? You don't have to answer that phone.
We don't
and
have
get
to sell real
irritated.
estate.
so to me, that's one of the things I really want you to be aware of. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
If we do it,
if
Right.
you answer the phone,
yes.
Yes.
you've got to be prepared to be there for your
Exactly.
client. Now, you don't have to answer the phone, but make sure that you're aware of the decisions you're making.
Right.
Because otherwise, you set yourself up for failure and making the relationship and everything else more difficult. You know, it's one of those things just to be aware of in how you're coming across. Because we will tend to justify ourselves every time unless we are consciously aware of it. You know? And that's, to me, the key thing to think about. What are the things that am I expecting that may be unrealistic? I hear this all the time from agents who have totally unrealistic expectations of the agent on the other side of the transaction. This is why I think agents just don't ever put themselves into the other agent's position. And yet, if you really do that, you'll find that your relationships with other agents are so much different.
Yeah.
There was an insight there.
Yeah, in fact, on a recent transaction, my first thought is, this guy is so lazy, okay? So every conversation we had was so difficult until one day he was like, okay, look, here's what's going on with my seller. And he told me, and I just got into what he was saying. And from that moment on, we worked together and he's like, and I know where your guy is. He's difficult too. We both have these great clients that we're dealing with. And so it was more about us making sure this transaction went through. And then I ended up like remember, you were like, go get him a bottle of the most expensive cologne you could find. And it just changed everything, you know, because we were more concerned with how we were, you know, how this agent was working with our client than, you know, my client and you know what I'm saying? It was interesting.
Yes.
It was a whole different feeling.
Yeah, they went from like being two opposing teams to being a team together. Like, how can we get our clients to the goal line?
Yes.
I saw the shift.
Right.
It was
And,
awesome.
and
watching
actually, he
her.
isn't a lazy agent.
And
He's a laid back, like kind of like the duck with the feet underneath the water like this. He's really smart and he's actually a very good agent. But because I made a judgment in the very beginning.
so how long did that shift take?
To get to?
Not to get to, but when from thinking he was lazy to, or sort of working against you to being on the
I
same
would say
team.
3 weeks.
I was
Something like that.
about 2.5.
Yeah,
so
2.5
probably
to 3, yeah.
But then it happened fast and it was.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
see, and that's what I tend to believe is that when we're in this position of judgment of people, we tend to create almost adversarial, difficult relationships.
Yes.
When we mentally can change and join that person in their reality, what I found is that the relationship shifts and seems to shift almost instantly. And it's like, you know, now if we look at this in our own lives, we see this. Has anybody ever had a fight with their spouse?
No.
Never.
And, you know, it's like, you're just, and then something happens and mentally, suddenly you see that person you were just fighting with in a totally different light, and it's like, all of a sudden, all the love and respect and everything else you have comes flooding back in, and it's like, 1 second, they were causing you major grief, and the next thing you're thinking,
I want
I
to marry
can't-
you all over again.
yes, and it's like, to me, this book is dealing with that mental shift in reality. And to me, it's really powerful once you really understand that and can take away from it the impact you're having in just how you're perceiving and the judgments you're making about people, about yourself, about everything else in there. Now, to me, chapter 4 really lays out the sort of the core underlying factor of this incredibly well. And that's the story of Ignaz Semmelweis. And now, to me, here's this doctor dedicated to helping people. And, you know, first of all, I admire the fact that he was dedicated to try and solve this problem. I mean, the mortality rates in his section were higher, so he tried to do everything he could to figure out what was causing all these women to die. And then when he leaves, the mortality rate
Partners Publishing Corporation is pleased to
now. And to me, the greatest insight was that he didn't take that as a personal attack. He didn't try and look at it, he actually accepted, gosh, when I was gone,
Less
mortality
people
rates
died.
dropped, less people died, and he started looking at what was it, you know, and he looked at his own behaviors. Very rarely do we actually do that. Very rarely do we actually look and say, how am I playing into the thing I'm trying to solve? You know, and fortunately he was willing to look at that, and he realized that he was doing a lot more research, a lot more things, and he didn't know, but he speculated, well, maybe there's some particles getting from my hands that are from, you know, diseased cadavers into real people, and that's causing a problem. And as soon as he started washing the hands, had ready to do it, mortality rates dropped dramatically.
It was unbelievable. Like, there was 1 out of 10 women that were dying. He was, delivering babies, and 1 out of 10 of the mothers were dying. And they were begging, please let me go to the hospital. They only die 1 out of 50. This is like in the 1700s or something. But they didn't know this about germs. And he was also working on cadavers, dead people's bodies, and then, helping these, and that's how the women were dying. I know, but to have the wherewithal to think, what am I doing wrong?
And be willing to look at
Yeah.
that. And so, to me, the biggest takeaway from the Semmelweis story is, first of all, he was not aware that he had the problem, that he was the problem. But to me, the great thing about this group is you guys are actually willing to look at it and say, gosh, am I playing into part of the problem? Am I having an impact on the very problems that I'm trying to deal with? And once we can become aware of that and start looking at our own behavior, our own influence, I found that we can be much more effective as realtors, as parents, as spouses, in every aspect of what we're trying to accomplish. So first of all, I want to acknowledge all of you that you're here thinking about your own behavior and the impact you're having on other people, because to me, that's an incredibly powerful place to be at. You have a possibility of actually solving the problems at that point in time. Any other insights or takeaways from the Semmelweis story concepts? Don't all talk at once.
I mean, does anyone have anything? Because I was just, there was something that happened to me last year that brought me here, which was a great thing. And this is the story I tell, that God put me from that situation, put me in this situation, which is the best situation. However, I did what, what's the guy's name that's the lead in this book? Not Bud, but the other guy. Tom. He was the first one there at the office. He worked the hardest. He was the last one to leave. He looked at other people like, what are they doing, and how come they're not working hard, and going there. And I was distracted with a lot of things that were going on in my life, but I still kept going to work. But there was something different about the way that I was working, that I wasn't getting any results.
Oh, yes.
From January until August.
Yes.
0 sales. And working just as hard as I always did, but there was something in my behavior, in my mindset, that once I came here, I'm like, I'm done with that and I'm moving forward,
So-
and it's interesting, and I don't know what that behavior is or whatever, but it's just, I'm open to it now. I'm open to, I don't want that to happen next time.
Well, so, yes,
It's, and I have not read the book, so
I have not.
You can
I didn't
catch up,
realize
it's easy.
I'm gonna try to
Yeah.
get caught up, so, but as I think about what you just said, Lisa, and then just the concept of what we're talking about, I've found that pride
Yes,
is the great debilitator.
big time.
We have righteous pride, if you will, and then self-deprecating pride, so to speak, or
Yeah.
maybe not righteous pride, but like where you're truly prideful, just you think you know everything. And then there's the other side where you're trying to play the humble card, or trying to play the victim card, or I've worked so hard. And I think that what I've discovered is that when we mentally detach and just do the activities that are going to give us results. I mean, when I was working at Home Sotheby's back in the day, I went to that office every day. I was in that office, and I could start to feel like, why am I not getting any results? I'm here every day working. But the fact of the matter is that real estate is not in the office.
That's right.
It's out having lunch with clients. It's out seeing property. It's out this. It's out that. And I'm like, you have to like mentally detach.
Yeah.
And be willing to just be a sponge and learn and not be so prideful. And it's like the more I believe that I feel I know, and I'm talking about everything, like my spiritual beliefs, all my beliefs, the more I believe so strongly in what I think, the more I realize I really don't know the answers to a lot of those things. Now, obviously, faith plays a role, and that's the definition of faith, is we believe in things that are true, that are unseen, that we don't know. But we have to be willing to be vulnerable and flexible all the time, and I think that we're not. And I'm sitting here as a perfect example of all the things that I've said not to do, and I do. So that's why I'm really here.
Good
I
for you.
really want to like learn and grow.
Well, and I do think that, there's a couple things to me that I find, and now that I've read this book, I can't even, I don't know how many times I've read it for sure, but it's got to be 30 or 40. There's some subtle little things, even in the second chapter, where Tom starts becoming more defensive. And, he talks about, well, he's proud of the fact of how he deals with difficult people and people that are, and his ex-boss who was just, and you realize that, he is the problem, but he's justifying it, and he does it in ways that we all do it. And that's really the key thing to start thinking about it. Now, as we go along the book, we start to become aware of how our thinking and our justifications for what we're thinking actually create more and more problems for us. And to me, that's one of the great insights to really start looking at as we go through this. Keep asking, how am I playing into this behavior? What am I doing that I use to justify the behaviors or the lack of behaviors that I have? And that is such an important thing to do. And I also think we also have to be open to learning. To me, to your point, I always love that story about the guy that goes and seeks out the Buddha and says, I'm here to get the secrets of the world. And the Buddha starts pouring a cup of tea for him. And he fills the cup up, and the cup starts overflowing. The Buddha keeps pouring, and pretty soon it's overflowing the cup, the table, and eventually the guy says, stop pouring, you're making a mess. And the Buddha says, I have nothing to share with you. You've got to empty the cup before I can pour more in. And so to me, it's like, if we don't have a willingness to open up and, take in new information, look at things in a different perspective, we have no chance of ever actually making progress in what we're doing. So,
I hear that.
Hey, Greg.
yes.
That's perfect.
Sorry.
So profound.
Forgive me for. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people will not feel insecure around you. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most.
Yeah.
And I think that is like the truest statement that's ever been made.
I do think that we are afraid of really, what if we truly tapped into our full potential? What would that result be? And it's interesting, this book deals with some of those fears a little bit later in a great way. So any questions about the book? Anything else so far? And I realize that I wish I would have given you a few more chapters to read.
No.
Are we gonna try for 3 again this week?
Actually, we're gonna read up to page 118.
Okay.
So, I forgot how short some of these chapters are. Oh.
That's okay.
Is that like chapter 6 on Audible?
Oh, because you don't
So-
have.
Now,
Let me see, 118 is.
on Audible, if you actually go to the chapters and you go to the chapter markers,
Yeah.
they are not connected, at least on my version, to what's really on
Yeah.
there, so
So
I
after
can't tell you.
Up to after box problems, number
But it's
6.
actually gonna be through through chapter 16.
Chapters.
But, you know, there's a lot of these pages, or a lot of these chapters are like 4 pages
Yeah,
long.
I know, I like that.
I was like,
the
this is a
pictures.
great book.
So, to me, we've sort of set up with, you know, this problem of self-deception, the fact that we are oftentimes operating from this place where we aren't aware that we have a problem. To me, part 2, how we get in the box or how we become self-deceived, is really a useful way to start taking this concept and making it practical. And so, as you're reading through that, try and identify the ways that you actually do the same thing that they're talking about in the book. They've got some very interesting stories of self-deception in there that I think we can all identify from and be able to learn from as well. So, we're done a little early, so questions about anything? Coaching, information, free coaching time?
Can you still send out those letters, the 7 letters?
Can I
That we talked about last week, we talked about the letters that you were gonna send out.
Robin.
The buyer letter,
Robinson's.
no, you
Yeah.
can't send them out anymore. It's too late, that should say.
No, not, because there's a process. What's the process of each letter?
Yeah, we didn't
You
get
have a
that.
video on it, I think.
There's a video?
So,
Am I not making sense?
So yes, so basically, if you go to
It's on
agentcareerdevelopment.com
there.
and go to, there's the class I did on using the buyer's letters, and then there's the class Robin did on it.
Okay,
So basically, and it's such a simple concept. You take the buyer's letters, and you basically are going to mail the same letter every 3 days until people either call to list with you or call you to take you off the list. So people always ask me, how many times am I going to mail this? There's no set number. But eventually, everybody you put in that list will respond. Either I want off the list, or they're going to call you and talk to you about selling their house. So it's just keeping at it every 3 days,
right.
you know.
But last week Lisa had mentioned something like on letter 5 or something, she crumples it up, or, so it all says all
So
that in the.
letter number 4, yeah, so, and basically, there's no totally right or wrong. Ideally, you're going to send out letter number 1, which is basically, yeah, I've got a buyer for your particular area, you know, please call me if you're thinking about buying or selling your home. And there's just tiny little variations in the second and third letter.
Okay,
The third letter basically is saying the same thing. The fourth letter is designed to go out and you crumple it up, you put a post-it note on it that makes it look like you've gone through their trash, got the letter out,
Okay.
and sent it back to them. And it tends to get more people to respond to you.
Yeah.
Just because, it's like, and then you just keep at it because you're being persistent, and eventually everybody will keep responding. And as people ask to be off the list, obviously you stop mailing to them. And if you start talking to them about actually selling their house, you stop mailing the letters to them because you're working with them as a client. So that's, it's the magic of that system is that you're also demonstrating persistence to clients. It's one of the greatest job interviews out there.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, even if they call you and they're angry, say, hey, I'm sorry, I offended you, I take off the list. By the way, if you ever did need to sell your house, would you like a realtor that's this persistent?
Oh, I love that.
That's good, that's good.
That's really
Uh-huh,
good.
right there.
They'll either hang up on you or start laughing.
And so, you know, to me, it's like, it's never a bad thing, and it's always the stories we tell in our brain, you know, they're gonna be upset, you know, and, you know, Lisa's gotten a couple of unhappy people from her letters.
I'm sending a Starbucks card to him, it's okay, he'll be fine.
And so to me, it's like, that's okay, and it's an opportunity to be gracious.
Yes, so true. And you know, and it reminds me of a training that Jim Rohn gave about how there are only 3 monsters in the world, and they just move around a lot. And you can just expect that, you know, a few people are great and most people are good, and then once in a while you're just gonna get a real a-hole. And this one was the a-hole. So.
And I love what Gandhi said. He said, if you ever want to break the cycle of violence in the world, you have to be the one that's willing to meet violence and negativity with love and respect. He said, so often we are conditional. If you treat me with respect, I'll respect you back. He said, that's not love. That's not respect.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
He said, if I have respect for people, I treat everybody with respect because that's what's inside of me. He said, so decide what you want inside of you and then treat people that way, not because they deserve it, but because that's the decision of the person you want to be.
Okay,
I think I
can leave that on the,
I think I overtaxed the Holy Spirit.
Just look in Matthew chapter 6 at the end with the sermons, with the Savior's Sermon on the Mount. That's what he says. If you love the people that love you, good job. They already love you.
Yeah.
You're going to learn to love the people that hate you.
Yes. You know, and I was, I think it was on Saturday, Tom Ferry had this thing on YouTube, like his latest thing, and it was the perfect adjunct to the letter, the buyer's letter, your Robin's letters, and one of his agents is doing something similar, and he, because his thing was on Saturday, how 3 ways to get listings immediately. The first one was the buyer letter, but it wasn't as in depth. But he had some good things to say about that. And one of the things he said is like when somebody calls you about it, you could say, can I do, like we say a 1-party showing. He says, can I do a 1-day listing? I like that, a 1-day listing.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And then in the number 2 was using one of his agents that he trained. She did this. He said, but take it small. She did 1,200 at once, and she was returning calls 175 a day for days.
oh,
To use Slide Dial, which is a free app, and he was saying, and save this. And I have this if anybody wants it, because I have a folder and like things that are like real good for me, I'll save it so I can find it again. And with the script was something like, he was doing it like, hey, I'm calling about blah, blah, blah. I have a buyer, but it was the whole cadence of his voice and how he added vocal pauses. He did that on purpose so it didn't sound like this slick, pre-recorded thing that you were actually just calling that person, where it's really going out to everybody. And I really liked it. It was a really good script, and I just thought, ooh, that's a good way to follow up with these letters too.
So who's on the list? Is it just is it your social, how are you?
For the buyer's letters,
Yeah,
typically it's any small group of people that
Yeah.
you want to. So typically it's picking a geographic area where either you have a buyer or you know something.
You have a
This is
farm.
going to be,
Your farm.
Could be a jig.
it doesn't necessarily even have to be your farm, it could be any group. Now, the one thing that you need to remember is you're gonna be mailing every 3 days. And you don't want it to be so big that it overwhelms you. Where most people drop it is that they mail 3 or 4 times instead of doing it all the way to the end. And that will get you so much more respect and value out of the farm if you really execute it all the way.
And that's when the earth burns up, that's the end.
So,
When you retire.
yeah.
so,
So basically what you're saying is for the next 50 years, we're sending letters every 3 days.
Well, I'm only 30 years, you're 50 years. It is such a great way to do it, though. It's good.
So to me, it's like, that's a great place to start. Now, remember that it's a relatively short-term strategy. So you start with 50 houses, and once you're down to, what I tell people, once you're down to a list of 20, you need to pick the next 50.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Now, again, this is a strategy that is short-term oriented, though, by its very nature. It is effective. Now, to me, if you're going to do this in your farm, pick 50 people in your farm. Once you're through the buyer's letters, you're going to do your normal farming and build your brand
Yeah,
in there long term.
okay.
Eventually, you want to be so well branded that your brand is generating the business. And that's where, if you take a look at the really strong, dominant agents, they build that brand to a point where they don't need to do short-term activities like the buyer's letter. But it is, just remember, it is a short-term activity. The second you stop it, it's like stopping door knocking. You're out of sight, out of mind.
And how do you deceive the people into believing you have a buyer when you really don't? Again, what was the script on that?
So here's the
Greg's always
key
looking.
thing. So every week you come to the office meeting and agents do a needs and wants.
Yeah, needs and wants.
Uh-huh.
And if anybody has a buyer, do you have that buyer?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, so how many of you actually have a buyer? Because you know an agent that has a buyer. See, we always mentally get in this, we're realtors, we're part of the MLS. If there is a realtor in Orange County that has a buyer,
Yeah,
you are a sub-agent of that person.
right.
So mentally, I'm always amazed at how agents struggle with this. I always look at it and think, oh my goodness, I'm a realtor. Every realtor in Orange County is a sub-agent of me. So of course, anybody that has a buyer, I represent them. I just need to get the buyer, the listing. And yet so many of us say, well, I want to make sure that before I do anything, I know that I have a buyer that's working only with me. So anybody that has a buyer, and if you really get somebody and they say, well, yeah, I want you to show my property, I'm always happy to go be a buyer for anybody.
We're each other's buyers.
And if it's the right price,
You never know. Yeah.
That's good. I just think, sorry, I'm doing too much talking.
No,
We're on here.
I just think that we are so mental. We are so So how do you break the cycle of mental?
You don't
Like-
think like a realtor.
You come here
Yeah.
and we encourage each other.
Yeah.
That's it.
Don't think
It's-
like a, that's what they're trying to do.
Get
is
out of your
stop
head,
thinking
get
like a
out of
realtor.
your head.
It's the power of influence.
Yeah.
It's doing
Oh,
all those
gosh,
little
no
things.
kidding.
So, would you mind sharing the exercise you're working on?
Sure. So, I'll be vulnerable and let you know that I struggle so badly with this space. Like, the mental space is debilitating for me. And I've been going through some internal difficulties of, what do I need to do? Do I need to stay here? Do I need to go somewhere else? Do I need that restart? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm proud to say that I received a very strong impression and answer to my personal prayers that I need to stay exactly where I'm at. And I'm so at peace with that, you guys.
So good. And I knew you were in that struggle.
We
and
all
I-
did.
Yes, and
We
we
all
were praying
did.
for you.
Lisa told me he's gonna leave, he's thinking about it, start praying for him, she knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like,
I mean, not that I
Pretty
need to
much
get
out
all
the
Jesus
door.
on people that aren't Jesus-y, but
Jesus-y.
I am excited for you because it is in our head.
Yeah.
It's in our head. We've been with so many companies. Were we really rock stars in those other companies? No. And so why don't we soak in what we can here? I think we have everything here, and I know you've got that. I know you've totally got that. And you helped me through that at one point.
No, we all
Remember?
Listen,
Yeah.
I guess I've been with this company probably longer than 25 years. I don't know too many people have had. And I knew from the start, you can't move around and make it better. Now, the one move I did make, and there was a lot of issues I was going through with losing the love of my life, Paco, which she thought was my husband, was my dog. So I moved. It was difficult for me to go in the office every day down there because he worked with me for 14 years. And every time I went in my office, I started crying. So I made a choice to move here, but I stayed with the same company, knowing that the only way I was going to go to another company is if they sat down here, I've got a contract for you, we're going to give you $1 million sale for the rest of your life as long as you stay. Okay, I'm in. Nobody does that.
right.
So what's the use? It's a
Yeah.
waste
Right.
of time. So,
Right.
but no, I know, I've been right there with you.
Yeah, so I mean, I was just suffering tremendously, not that it matters, but just personally to me.
Mhm.
And I came to peace with that. And in that process, if you want to call it, I met with Robin. And I was just like, okay, I'm almost out the door here. So I don't know what to do. I'm not feeling good inside about all this. And she said, this has anything to do with like the brokerage. It has to do with you. And I'm like thinking I'm gonna come over the table on you because I'm like, I'm kidding. I wasn't.
No, I understand. I get
But I was just like,
I get
just
it.
so vulnerable and so
Don't
like
confuse
frustrated
it with
and
the truth.
conflicted, right? And she said, I need you to do something. And I said, what? And she said, I need you to make a list. I need you to write a list of 100 things and reasons why you love yourself. And I looked at her and I said, hell no. I didn't use those words, and forgive me for saying that because it's not my nature to swear. That's what I was feeling. That's what I was feeling. I said, no, I will not. I will not do that. I said, I hate myself more than you'll ever understand, and the last thing I can do is come up with 100 reasons to say I love myself. I will not. I will not do it. And I like walked out and went about my little whatever mental diatribe, and then had my answer to my prayers, and then met with these guys again. And as I drove down the road to know that I was going to meet with them, I knew they were going to make me do the list. And I was like, no. Just on my drive down here, I was like, I will do whatever they tell me, but I will not do that list. I will not. And so I walked into the office and I said, okay, I'm here to stay and I want to grow, but don't you dare tell me to do that list. I will not do it. I will do whatever else you tell me to do.
I couldn't think of 100 things about me.
Amen. That's how I felt,
I
right?
couldn't.
and they said, sorry. In essence, they said, sorry, that's your first assignment. And I was like, you suck. I'm breaking the test of it because I told them. And yes, I did shed some tears in there, personally speaking, just because anyway, I don't share this to be dramatic, even though I am dramatic, but I don't intend to be dramatic. I share it because I truly believe that we are such mental head cases, and that I will tell you, I'm like 20 into it, because what they did is they told me you don't have to do it all at the same time.
Thank goodness.
Like not
Oh,
all
like
at
20
one
and
single-
20 and 20
I'm
and
at
20.
5. Because I'm like you.
I
I'm like, I can't even come up with a half. I can't.
I don't
come
even
up
like
with
my
a-
hair.
But here's what I want to tell you. Okay? I'm not kidding. My life is starting to change.
Good, okay. Just with 5?
Yes.
Okay.
And they also gave me affirmations, and I've always been like, dude, I'm not that goofball that will do
Oh, I do,
affirmations.
I
will
do.
not do
I do.
that.
Give
That
it
is
to me.
that is not what I will do.
I do.
I'm better than that. I don't need to affirm how blah. That's bull crap.
Because you're in your head.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And so I've affirmed and I've written 5 things. I didn't do it over the weekend. I know I didn't. I have now to make up 15, but I will get those out and I will tell you, and just for your benefits, not for mine, because I don't share these things to have energy absorbed here. I sincerely desire to have it go out. I truly do. But I believe how strong and powerful this is, and how like you're actually able to start to detach. And the irony of all of this, you guys, and I'm not here to evangelize. I know that we come from all different walks of life, so I respect that, I embrace that, and it's not about me evangelizing to any one single person in here. But my personal faith teaches me all that we're talking about.
We already have it.
It is within the core of my soul. So what has been the disconnect? Why have I not allowed a loving God that I believe in certainly be willing and able to love everybody else, but not able to love me? And it's these mental things, it's these mental barriers that we create that we are not able to push through, because he stands with his arms outstretched saying, come unto me. I will give you everything.
Yeah.
That's what the scriptures that I read teach me. And as I've gone through this exercise, and I was so pissed because I was late and I left my bag at home and I was running out the door and I'm so mad. But this is where we need to be. Because business and success is not in being John McMonagle or John Kane or whoever those people are that do hordes of business. It's about breaking free from your own internal demons and being able to appreciate and love yourself. And I'm not even close yet, but I'm on the path. And so, anyway, that was way
Well,
longer.
that's perfect.
It was just so perfect. In fact,
That's
So-
great.
So
Let's
love it.
part of this process to me is that the exciting thing about it is that when a group of people get together and start talking about ideas that can be life-changing, we've started the process of transforming everybody in this office. Not only our lives, but the lives of the people we come in contact with, our clients. That's to me the exciting opportunity that we have. That we are starting this journey in a group of people that are willing to be vulnerable, look at themselves and try and grow, can truly change the world. So to me, first of all, thank you guys all for showing up, participating.
Thank you.
And this is just a start of hopefully getting down there as we go through this book. At the end of it, I really want you to think, what if everybody in this office lived the principles of leadership and self-deception? what kind of an impact could we have, not only on this office, but on our community at large, and on our families and the people that we come in contact with. So next week, page 118, we'll see you 9 o'clock, and feel free to bring a friend.
Oh, next Monday, are we meeting next Monday?
That's
It's Memorial Day.
So I guess holidays should not really count, so I forgot that next Monday was Memorial Day. So it'll be, do you guys want to do it on Tuesday or skip a week and go the following Monday?
Let's do it Tuesday.
I could go Tuesday.
Tuesdays with like
Yeah,
this,
I think we need it. I don't like supplemental
That's
medicine.
okay, global schools.
Can you do it, Tad, next Tuesday?
I just have to drop my dogs off at 9.
Okay,
Oh, shoot.
But it's okay,
Are
I
we
might be a couple
okay?
minutes late if you
Well,
don't
let's-
mind.
Do Tuesday a little later then, so you can
We
be
do.
here.
Tuesday,
I mean, if you did it by 9:30, I would be here.
Just do that.
Whatever.
Tuesday at 9:30?
That's good.
that's the
All right.
29th, right?
Yes.
Tuesday at 9:30.
Yes.
All right,
Can you get an email out, Greg?
I will.
For the others, and then I have on my calendar that I've got jury duty that whole week. Just pray that I don't get put on a freaking jury, because I do every single time, because I'm so not biased.
Not me, I let them know what I really think, and they
Yeah.
never pick me.
Yeah.
so a couple of things. First of all, remember that this is open to anybody. It doesn't have to be a realtor, it could be another realtor from
Oh
the
my
company.
gosh, I forgot to ask you that, because my neighbor wants to come, and she's at First Team's training to get her license. And this
So-
would have been the most amazing day for her to be at.
Nelson Mamie, who's a lawyer just right over behind us in here, I've known him for a long time, and he was going to make it today, but he called me at the last minute and said he had something come up, but he's going to try and come. If you have friends, family members that you think would benefit from this, invite
Oh,
them.
gosh.
Oh
So many people.
This is just
Well, they
amazing.
need people
But they would
that,
have to be reading, wouldn't they?
they should read it.
So
They need to
Invite
know
them in-
how to
in-
get us
yeah.
out of our own head. if
again, remember
we
you can go to that link online and download the book,
Okay,
for free.
Which
I
one
always
is it?
a little reluctant to
it's called
give away
Leadership
something
know
that's
what's
a
your
PDF.
link online.
Good.
What is it?
He sent us.
Oh,
What's the link?
you
You
I
can
don't-
send them an email?
Yeah, if you send, I'll send you an email.
Okay, I'll
Send
send
me
you
an
an
email.
email right
I
now.
downloaded it and I never got it. Weird. But I bought the Audible book.
All right, so yeah.
I need the link.
Okay, so just send me an email
Okay.
and I will send you the link to it.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, thank you. Go to work and
Yeah, thank you.
sell some real estate.
Okay.